My wife had been sleeping with my brother for 2 full years and our own children helped them hide it. When I found out the truth, I sold everything, disappeared without a word, and what I did next shattered the life they had built together. I never thought I'd write this story, but here it is. My name is Conrad. I'm 38 years old, and for the past 15 years, I've worked as a seismologist specializing in earthquake prediction. When I found out the truth, I sold everything, disappeared without a word, and what I did next shattered the life they had built together. I never thought I'd write this story, but here it is. My name is Conrad. I'm 38 years old, and for the past 15 years, I've worked as a seismologist specializing in earthquake prediction. Sounds fancy, but mostly it means staring at data streams and trying to figure out when the Earth's going to throw its next tantrum. Been doing it for 15 years now, and I'm pretty good at spotting patterns that others miss. Guess that skill doesn't translate to personal life, though. I've been married to Iris for 14 years. She runs this boutique floral design business, not your average flower shop, but high-end stuff. Corporate events, society weddings, arrangements that cost more than most people's rent. She built it from nothing, and I've always been proud of her for that. We have 2 kids. Bryce just turned 16 and Willow's 13. Good kids mostly. Bryce is quiet, spends too much time gaming, but his grades are solid. Willow's the opposite. Social butterfly, always has drama with her friend group, but she lights up any room she walks into. Then there's my brother Felix, 3 years younger than me, works as a municipal waste management supervisor. Yeah, he's essentially in charge of garbage collection for our district, but the pay is decent and the benefits are solid. We've always been close. Different career paths, sure. But we grew up in the same crappy neighborhood, same struggles. Made a pact when we were kids that we'd always have each other's backs. Felix has been around more lately. His divorce finalized 8 months ago. And honestly, Gina was a nightmare. So good riddance. Since then, he's been at our place constantly. Sunday dinners, Thursday game nights, every one of Bryce's baseball games, Willow's dance recital. Iris insisted we be a support system. Family helps family, she'd say, setting an extra plate without me asking. Looking back, there were signs, little things that seemed like nothing at the time, like how Felix and Iris had developed all these inside jokes I wasn't part of. They'd burst out laughing at references I didn't get, then wave it off. You had to be there, Iris would say, patting my arm. Or how the kids started being weird about phones. Willow used to leave hers anywhere, but suddenly she'd jump if I picked it up to move it. Bryce started taking his mom's phone to help her with app updates every few days. When I offered to help instead, I work with complex systems for a living. He'd say mom preferred him to do it. There was this one time, maybe 3 months ago, I came home early with a migraine. Felix's truck was in the driveway. Found them in the kitchen standing closer than necessary, both stepping apart when I walked in. Iris's face was flushed. Felix was helping me move the new mixer, she explained, pointing at the counter where her KitchenAid sat in the exact same spot it had been for 2 years. Must be heavy, I'd said, too tired to think about it. Felix had laughed. Too loud, too long. Yeah, bro. These things are brutal. The field surveys were the worst part of my job. Sometimes I'd be gone for days monitoring remote sensor stations, analyzing ground movement patterns in places with no cell service. Iris never complained. Someone has to predict the next big one. She'd say, kissing me goodbye. We'll hold down the fort. Felix would always text. Don't worry about them. Bro. I got it. 2 weeks ago, I was supposed to be gone for 3 days checking our coastal monitoring grid. Big project department was freaking out about some unusual readings. But when I got there Tuesday morning, the senior tech had already run the diagnostics. False alarm. Equipment malfunction. My supervisor told me to just head home. Enjoy the unexpected free time. I stopped at Iris's favorite bakery, grabbed those overpriced macarons she loves. Thought I'd surprise her, maybe have lunch together at her shop. But when I drove past, her assistant mentioned she'd taken a personal day. Weird since she hadn't mentioned feeling sick that morning. The house was quiet when I got home. Iris's car wasn't there. Felix's neither. Kids were at school. I set the macaroon on the counter. Went to grab my backup equipment from the garage. Might as well use the free time to update my home monitoring setup. That's when I saw it. Bryce's tablet on the kitchen counter. Screen still on. He must have forgotten it in his morning rush. A notification banner appeared at the top. New photos added to hidden album. Mom's folder. My finger hovered over it for a second. Then I tapped. The album opened immediately. No password. No security. Why would there be? This was hidden in my 16-year-old son's tablet. The first photo stopped my breathing. Iris in our bedroom wearing the lingerie I bought her for our anniversary, but I wasn't the one taking the photo. The angle was wrong. Taken from where I usually sleep. Felix's tattooed forearm was visible at the edge of the frame holding her waist. I scrolled more photos. Dozens. Hundreds. Iris and Felix at a hotel I recognized, the one downtown where she'd had a floral conference last spring. Timestamp 2:47 p.m., April 15th. I've been analyzing seismic data from the northern fault line that day. Remembered it clearly because I'd found an anomaly that had me working until midnight. Another photo. Our living room couch, Felix's work shirt on the floor. Timestamp, January 9th, 11:23 a.m., Willow's birthday. I've been setting up the surprise party venue while Iris stayed home to keep her distracted. My hands weren't shaking. That's what surprised me most. 15 years of monitoring earthquake sensors teaches you to stay steady when the ground shifts, to observe, document, analyze. Don't panic. Panic causes mistakes. I kept scrolling my mind, cataloging data like I was reviewing sensor readings. 2 years. The photos went back 2 full years. The oldest one, November 3rd, 2 years ago, the day after Felix's separation. He'd crashed at our place that night, devastated about Gina leaving. Iris had insisted he take the guest room. I'd held my brother while he cried about his marriage ending. The metadata told the real story. Dates, times, locations, a clear pattern emerging. Every business trip, every late night at her shop, every time I was in the field. They weren't even careful about it. Photos in my bed, my shower, my garage, at the kids' schools during events. One from Bryce's freshman orientation while I was presenting at a conference in Japan. But the worst part wasn't the photos themselves. It was the organization. Someone had sorted them into folders. Dad at work, Dad's conference week, field survey days. Each folder meticulously labeled with my schedule. The kind of organization that takes effort planning. The kind a 16-year-old would do if he was told to manage something important. My son was their filing system. I found the messages next. Screenshot saved between the photos. Iris to Felix, Conrad bought the sensor upgrade story. We have all weekend. Felix to Iris. Bryce deleted the door cam footage like you asked. Kids getting good at this. Iris to Felix. Willow's covering tomorrow. Told C I'm taking her shopping for school. My children, my own children, were actively participating. They weren't just aware, they were accomplices, booking their mother's affair, creating alibis, managing digital evidence. I clicked on a recent folder last week. Photos from 3 days ago when I was at the geological conference in Sacramento, our bed again, but this time there was something different. A document visible on the nightstand. I pinched to zoom. Psychiatric evaluation forms. Partially filled out. My name at the top, patient shows signs of paranoid delusion. Recommends immediate intervention. Spouse requesting emergency hold. They weren't just having an affair. They were building a case. I screenshotted everything. Uploaded it all to 3 different cloud services. Emailed copies to a dummy account. The analytical part of my brain had taken over completely. Document. Preserve. Analyze. The sound of car doors made me look up. Iris's laugh carried through the window. Felix's deeper voice responding. The kids chattering about something. They were home. I had maybe 30 seconds before they walked in. My finger moved quickly, closing apps, clearing recent history. Placed the tablet exactly where I'd found it. 47-degree angle to the counter's edge. Home button facing the kitchen entrance. Details matter when you're studying patterns. The front door opened. Grocery bags rustling. Willow's voice. Dad's truck is here. Conrad, Iris called out, surprise in her voice. Not panic, just surprise. Honey, you're home early. I pulled a mug from the cabinet, kept my back to them as they entered the kitchen. Poured coffee with steady hands. The same hands that had just discovered my entire life was built on a fault line. Equipment malfunction, I said, turning with a casual smile. False alarm at the coast. Figured I'd come home, surprise my beautiful family. Felix stood in the doorway, a grocery bag in each arm. Our eyes met. Hey, bro, he said, good to see you. Good to see you, too, I said, taking a sip of coffee. Black, no sugar. Needed the bitter taste to keep me grounded. Iris moved past Felix, set her bags on the counter right next to Bryce's tablet, didn't even glance at it. We picked up steaks for dinner. Felix mentioned he was craving red meat. She kissed my cheek, her lips cold from the October air. The same lips from those photos. Sounds great, I said. I'll fire up the grill later. Bryce slouched in behind everyone, earbuds in, head down. His eyes flicked to his tablet, then to me. Quick assessment. The tablet was exactly where he'd left it. His shoulders relaxed. Hey, Dad, he mumbled. Hey, buddy, good day at school. Same as always. Willow bounced over, gave me a quick hug. Dad, can you help me with my earth science project? It's about tectonic plates. Of course, sweetheart. The words came out automatic, normal. Inside, I was calculating. Every hug, every smile, every casual interaction, all of it was performance. They'd been performing for 2 years. Now it was my turn. The next 2 weeks were an education in deception. I became the perfect husband, the perfect father, the perfect brother, helped Willow with her project, went to Bryce's baseball practice, grilled with Felix on Sunday, laughed at their jokes, ignored their inside looks, pretended not to notice when Iris's phone buzzed, and she'd flip it face down, or when Felix would text and suddenly need to check on something at work. But every night, after everyone was asleep, I worked. First thing, I installed monitoring software on all our devices during routine updates. Told Iris I was upgrading our home network security. Been reading about identity theft, I explained. She praised me for being proactive. Felix nodded along, said he should do the same. The software was invisible, comprehensive. Every text, every call, every deleted photo, it all came to me. The depth of it was staggering. Iris hadn't just been sleeping with Felix. She'd been moving money. Small amounts. Nothing I'd noticed normally. 50 here, 100 there, but over 2 years, nearly $40,000 scattered across 3 accounts I didn't know existed. The business was perfect cover. Cash transactions, easy to skim. Felix was worse. He'd been using my information to set up side businesses, consulting firms that didn't exist, waste management contracts with ghost companies, all using variations of my social security number, my credit history, building a paper trail that led back to me while he collected the money. The kids were getting paid, literal payments, Willow's sudden interest in expensive makeup, $500 from mom's special fund each time she provided alibis. Bryce's gaming setup that cost $3,000 payment for managing their digital footprint. My family had turned into a criminal enterprise and I was both the mark and the fall guy. Felix's municipal access was a gold mine. City systems run on outdated infrastructure. Security from the Stone Age. Took me 20 minutes to get into his work account using his predictable password, his truck's license plate. Found 5 years of doctored contracts, inflated invoices, kickbacks from waste disposal companies. But the psychiatric papers were the masterpiece. They'd been planning it for months. Iris had been documenting my concerning behavior. Late nights analyzing data became obsessive paranoid episodes. My earthquake prep supplies were hoarding behavior indicating instability. They'd even gotten statements from neighbors about me being withdrawn and secretive. The plan was elegant. Have me committed for 72 hours, minimum. During that hold, transfer all assets as emergency protective measure. Felix would handle the legal side through his municipal connections. By the time I got out, if I got out, everything would be gone, and I'd look like the unstable one who'd lost his mind. I sat in my home office at 3 a.m., surrounded by printed evidence, and felt something I hadn't expected. Respect. They'd built something elaborate, thorough, it's almost beautiful in its complexity. Too bad I was better at recognizing patterns. Started making my own moves. Opened accounts they couldn't touch. Transferred my consulting payments offshore. Scheduled automatic payments that would trigger later. Set up shell companies using Felix's fraudulent business model, but done properly legally in his name. It was during one of these late night sessions that my phone rang. Unknown number, but local area code. Conrad. The voice was familiar but unexpected. It's Warren from law school. Listen, this is going to sound strange, but someone called our office today asking about involuntary commitment procedures. They mentioned your name specifically. Warren, I said, keeping my voice level. Thanks for calling. Who was asking? Woman named Iris said she was your wife. Seemed real concerned about your mental state. Started asking about emergency holds, asset protection during psychiatric events. Conrad. I'm not trying to pry, but are you okay? Never better, I said, staring at the evidence spread across my desk. Did she mention when she might take action? She was pushing for details about timing. Wanted to know if holds could happen on weekends if family could initiate without warning. Man, I probably shouldn't have called, but something felt off. We went through some rough stuff together in school. Figured I owed you a heads up. You just saved my life, Warren. I mean that send me a bill for the consultation, whatever she discussed. I'll pay double. After I hung up, I knew my timeline had just compressed. They were moving soon. This weekend, probably when the courts move slower, harder to fight back. Time to accelerate. Thursday morning, I liquidated everything I legally could. The joint accounts drained into new accounts in my name. Only legal since both parties can access joint funds. The investment portfolio cashed out. Early withdrawal penalties were nothing compared to losing it all. The house listed with a cash buyer I'd already lined up through a wholesale company. 60% of market value, but closed in 24 hours. The cars were easier, both in my name. Sold to CarMax for cash on the spot. Told Iris mine was getting detailed. Said I'd drop hers off for the recall service she'd been ignoring. The kids' college funds hurt the most. But they were in my name as primary, their mother as beneficiary. Legal to withdraw. Morally questionable maybe, but they'd been taking bribes to help destroy me. That money was partially funded by their betrayal. Anyway, Felix's fake businesses using my information. I filed all the proper paperwork, made them legitimate. Then I filed 5 years of tax returns for them, showing massive profits he'd never declared. Even paid the initial taxes to make it look real. The Internal Revenue Service would come looking for the rest with penalties and interest that would bury him. But the master stroke was simpler. I created a paper trail showing Felix had been embezzling from the city for years. Used his own real contracts, just altered the amounts. Deposited cash into accounts I'd opened in his name using his information he'd carelessly left on his work computer. Made it look like he'd been skimming from waste management contracts, taking kickbacks from private haulers. Then I did something I'd learned from them. I made the evidence find itself. Sent an anonymous tip to the city comptroller about irregularities in waste management billing. Attached just enough proof to warrant investigation. The money in those accounts, it would look like Felix had been stealing for years. His protests would sound like denial. His real theft would surface during investigation, making everything worse. Friday night, I suggested a special family dinner. Been working too much, I said. Want to appreciate what I have. Iris seemed touched. That's sweet, honey. I made my signature pasta, the one from our first date. Opened a good bottle of wine. Felix showed up with dessert, playing the grateful brother routine. The kids actually put their phones down, engaged in conversation. I've been thinking, I said, raising my glass about permanence. We study earthquakes, predict them, but we can't stop them. All we can do is prepare for the inevitable shift. Felix laughed nervously. Getting philosophical on us? Bro. Just appreciating stability while it lasts, I said, looking him straight in the eye. You never know when everything might change overnight. Iris reached over, squeezed my hand. Well, we're not going anywhere. No, I agreed. You're not. After dinner, I helped clean up. Hugged the kids goodnight, told them I love them. Meant it despite everything. They'd been turned into weapons against me, but they were still my children. Working late tonight, I told Iris, big analysis to finish. Don't stay up too long, she said, kissing me, that familiar cologne smell on her, not mine. Felix is at 3 a.m., I stood in our bedroom one last time. 2 suitcases packed with essentials. One-way ticket to Prague booked under my name. From there, who knows? I had 17 hours before the flight. On the kitchen counter, I left 3 envelopes, one for Iris, one for Felix, one for the kids. Each contained a single photo from Bryce's tablet and 4 words. I know everything. Goodbye. The first text came while I was boarding the plane. Iris, what is this? Conrad, what did you do? Then, Felix, bro, this isn't funny. Call me. I turned off my phone, settled into my seat. 13 hours to Prague. By the time I landed, the real show would have started. I wasn't wrong. From a coffee shop in Prague, I opened my laptop and watched my old life detonate in real time. Amazing what you can see through social media and public records when you know where to look. Iris discovered the empty accounts first. The Saturday morning Instagram post she'd planned about her new boutique expansion became a frantic Facebook plea asking if anyone had seen me. Her business credit card started declining by noon. The vendor accounts I'd canceled triggered immediate payment demands for outstanding balances. $20,000 in roses and orchids due immediately. Felix got arrested at work Monday morning. The comptroller's investigation had moved fast. Found the accounts I'd set up. Traced the deposits. They dragged him out in handcuffs during the morning shift briefing. Someone filmed it, posted it online. His face as they read the charges. Priceless. The real beautiful part, when they investigated the fake embezzlement, they found the real embezzlement. Turns out I'd underestimated how much he'd been stealing. The house foreclosure notice was already posted by Tuesday. The cash sale had closed. New owners taking possession immediately. Iris showed up with a police escort to get belongings, but legally she had no claim. I'd sold my property, which happened to be where she lived. Her lawyer, paid with money she no longer had, couldn't do anything. The kids' schools called about unpaid tuition Wednesday. Apparently, Iris had been counting on those college funds for current expenses, too. Floating checks she couldn't cover. Bryce got pulled from baseball. Willow's Dance Academy suspended her membership. The Internal Revenue Service hit Felix Thursday. 5 years of unreported income from businesses registered in his name with his digital signatures paid into accounts with his fingerprints on them from when I'd had him help me with investment paperwork months ago. $200,000 in back taxes. Penalties doubling it. His city pension, his only real asset, frozen immediately. By Friday, a week after I'd left, they turned on each other. Iris posted a rant about Felix ruining everything with his sloppiness. Felix responded by admitting the affair publicly, but claiming Iris had seduced and manipulated him. The comment section became a battlefield. Family members chose sides. Friends unfriended. Their parents got involved. Accusations flying. The kids suffered most. Bryce posted a desperate message about losing his college fund, begging for GoFundMe donations. Someone leaked the tablet photos in response, asking why he'd helped hide the affair. The comments destroyed him. Willow's friends' parents started forbidding contact, not wanting their daughters around someone who'd been bought to lie. 3 months passed. I established myself in New Zealand using my geology credentials to secure consulting work, the earthquake prediction firm I dreamed about starting. Finally had time to build it. Turns out running from your life gives you plenty of time to create a new one. Iris's boutique shuttered within 6 weeks. Without credit, without inventory, without reputation, she couldn't sustain it. The last Instagram post showed her wearing a polyester uniform, serving coffee at a truck stop diner off Interstate 5. The same diner where we'd had our first date. Actually, the one she'd always said was beneath her whenever we drove past. Felix got 10 to 15, pleading down from 25. The embezzlement was bad enough, but the tax fraud made it federal. His ex-wife, Gina, sent me a thank you card. Apparently, seeing him finally face consequences was better than therapy. Iris tried to divorce me in absentia. Hard to serve papers to someone who doesn't exist anymore. Harder still when you can't afford a lawyer. She'd moved in with her mother, kids in tow, 4 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. Then, 6 months after I left, an email arrived in my secure account from Bryce. Dad, I know you're reading this. Mom's lost everything. Uncle Felix is facing 10 years minimum. We're moving in with Grandma. I just wanted you to know, Willow, and I knew it was wrong, but she said you'd take us away from her if you found out. I'm sorry. I stared at that email for an hour. Then I started typing my response. I typed 3 words. I know, son. Then I deleted them. Started again. Deleted that, too. Finally settled on. When you turn 25, you'll understand everything. Until then, study hard. Dad, I attached documentation for the trust funds I'd set up, untouchable until they turned 25. Enough for college, grad school, and a start in life. But not a penny before they were old enough to understand the cost of betrayal. My consulting firm in Auckland was thriving. Turns out when you can actually predict earthquakes with 72-hour accuracy, governments pay attention. Mining companies, construction firms, insurance companies, they all wanted what I was selling. Within 8 months, I had 12 employees and contracts worth more than I'd made in 5 years back home. The universe has a sense of humor, though. My firm won a contract with the United States Geological Survey. 3-year project analyzing fault lines along the Pacific coast, required periodic on-site visits to California. My first trip back was 14 months after I'd left. I stayed downtown anonymous in a business hotel, had meetings, presented findings, discussed monitoring stations. Professional, focused, successful. The Conrad who fled in the night didn't exist anymore. This Conrad wore tailored suits, commanded 7 figures, and had his pick of consulting contracts globally. The last morning, I needed coffee before my flight. The hotel's machine was broken. The closest place, that truck stop diner off I-5, the one where Iris worked. The one where we had our first date 16 years ago. I could have gone anywhere else. Should have probably, but I didn't. The breakfast rush was thinning when I walked in. Worn linoleum, cracked vinyl booths, the same faded menu board I remembered, and there refilling coffee at table 3 was Iris. The designer clothes were gone. The perfect hair now in a simple ponytail. The manicured nails replaced by short, practical ones. She looked tired, older, real in a way she hadn't been in years. I sat at the counter, picked up a menu I didn't need to read. She turned, coffee pot in hand, and froze. Our eyes met across 15 feet of diner floor. The pot shook slightly. Coffee sloshed but didn't spill. Coffee? Her voice was barely a whisper. Black. No sugar, I said. She poured with trembling hands. Up close, I could see the lines around her eyes, the gray she wasn't bothering to cover anymore. Her name tag said Iris N. No last name? No wedding ring either. Conrad. Just the coffee, I said, pulling out my phone, checking emails. She stood there for a moment, then walked away, came back 5 minutes later with my order. Eggs over easy. Wheat toast, hash browns crispy. She'd remembered. I didn't order this. It's what you always got, she said quietly. Every Sunday morning after we'd been out Saturday night, that was a different life. Her eyes filled. One tear escaped, rolled down her cheek. I destroyed everything. Yes, I agreed. You did. The kids have trust funds when they're old enough to understand consequences. Felix got 12 years. Should have been 20. She stood there holding that coffee pot like an anchor. I loved you once before it all went wrong. No, I said, taking a bite of toast. You loved what I provided. There's a difference. A customer called for a refill. She started to go, stopped. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I looked at her, then really looked at her. This woman who'd shared my bed for 14 years, given me 2 children, built an elaborate conspiracy to destroy me, who'd turned my own brother against me, weaponized my children, tried to have me locked away while she stole everything. I know, I said. I finished my breakfast in silence. The eggs were perfect. The coffee was bitter. The hash browns were exactly the right amount of crispy. Some things at least hadn't changed. I left a $1,000 bill on the counter. Not for her. For the woman she used to be, or maybe could have been. For the 16 years that included some good before it all turned rotten. For closure. As I walked out, I heard her sob behind me. Didn't turn around. Some earthquakes you don't need to measure. You just need to survive them. My flight left in 3 hours. New Zealand was home now. I had a business to run, a life to live, future earthquakes to predict. The ground had shifted. Everything had collapsed, but I'd rebuilt on more stable terrain. And I never looked back. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.